right, welcome back to the Word for the Valley podcast, and in today's episode, we encounter a woman who had every reason to stay hidden, unclean, unwanted, and untouched for 12 long years. Cut off from worship, community, and likely even family, her condition had left her completely alone. And yet, something in her heart stirred. Not proof, not an argument, not logic, but faith. A deep, undeniable conviction that if she could just get close enough to touch the hem of Jesus' garment, she would be healed. We explore what kind of faith pushes a person from isolation into a pressing crowd, risking shame and rejection, all for one moment with the Savior. Well, let's follow along with Pastor Mike as we pick back up at chapter 9, verse 20.
Now, there's an interruption along the way. Suddenly, it says here, it's interesting. Suddenly, that's Matthew's perspective. It's not the woman's perspective. Suddenly, a woman here who had a flow of blood, which is a menstrual bleed, for 12 continuous years, came from behind and touched the hem of his garment. Now, in Leviticus chapter 15, we're told that when a woman was in her time of her bleed, she was to be considered unclean. Not only was she to be considered unclean, everything she touched was to be considered unclean. So she's not cooking meals at that time. She's resting. She's sitting down. And obviously in an ancient society, to manage that rightly for the benefit of the woman, you can see God's wisdom in all of that. But for the woman here, to have this bleed start and not stop for 12 years would have actually produced some form of ostracizing. She would have been eliminated from anything of her normal life. She would have not been able to go to the temple. Now, a woman wasn't able to get very close anyway there at the temple, but she wouldn't have been able to access much at all there, not even be in the crowd, so to speak. She wouldn't be able to really approach God, go to the synagogue, see the religious leaders. She wouldn't have been allowed in that environment. She wouldn't have been allowed to make a meal for her husband if she was married. She wouldn't have been allowed to hug her kids. She wouldn't have been allowed to hand them the sack lunch as they walk out the door. She wouldn't have been allowed to sleep in his bed or stay on the same couch. Probably after a little while, probably not even in the same house. Probably if they remained married to her, which is a huge if, after 12 years of not being able to be with her in any significant way. If she remains under his covering, it is a little granny flat off the side of the house where they almost basically slide the food under the door and keep her alive. No real human contact, no real human engagement, no real involvement from anybody. Gone. No touch. Her dad wouldn't be there. Her mom, I'm sure she could stand outside the window and wish I'm so sorry, honey, I wish there's something I could do. But no real involvement if the parents are still alive. No help. Now, she would go to the doctors. It tells us in the book of Mark that she went to the doctors. And if you've been to the doctors a lot, you know how that goes. Hey, why don't you try this? You've heard me say this before. When I go to the doctors, I don't want to try anything. I'm going to try. What do you mean try? Do or do not. There is no try. Don't you watch the movies? You know Yoda. Come on now. There's no try. I don't want to try this. By the time they would have been done with her, she would have tried everything, including Edersheim says some of the more elaborate cures for a menstrual bleed was to carry around an uncooked ostrich egg. I don't know where you find one of those things, but I guess if you do, you just hold on to it for a while. Now, that's not the worst, right? One of them was that you were supposed to dig through the dung of a white female donkey and find a barley kernel. Now, before you put that in your pocket, you should probably clean it off. But somehow or another, that was supposed to help these bleeds. Now, you can tell by these kinds of cures that we've gotten into mere fancy, right? Into hocus pocus, some type of, ethereal kind of, help to these kinds of things. There's no medicine involved in any of this. It's mere superstition. In addition to that, the doctors ran her through all those tests. You would like, if you were trying something and it didn't work, that you could get a refund. Doctors don't like to give refunds. When you pay, it's pretty much theirs. You have to sue to get it back. None of this helped her, and they took all of her money. This has been 12 years. Not even to speak about what this would be doing to her physical frame. The anemia, the blood loss, just the constant attendance to these things. It's been 12 years. Now, it is interesting, is it not? That's how old the daughter was. In the same city, 12 years ago, Jairus and Mrs. Jairus, whatever her name may be, right, have a baby girl. It's a baby girl. Yes, right? Right around the same time, there's a woman, starts to bleed. She looks at her husband and says, something's not right here. Something it feels different. This is not the monthly thing. Something's going on. Well, we'll go see a doctor, honey. Let's go check it out. One starts a process of raising a daughter. The other one starts a process of dying. All in the same city. It is remarkable. In a crowd even of this size, we can be dealing with so many different things all at the same time. Some celebrating and rejoicing, and some grieving and suffering. And they come together on the same day to seek Jesus. A woman here who had a flow of blood for 12 years came from behind, it says, and touched the hem of his garment. For she said to herself, if only I may touch his garment, I shall be made well. Now, the hem of the garment, Numbers chapter 15 tells us that the Jews were required to put tassels and hems on their garments, and it was their way of kind of, it'd be like wearing a Jesus t-shirt now or something, like it'd kind of signify their spirituality, to put their spirituality kind of on display outwardly in their dress, to remind them of heaven, to remind them that they're God's children, it'd just be the way of weaving that kind of into their day-to-day life. And it was to speak of their spirituality. Now, Jesus says in Matthew chapter 18 that the Pharisees had taken those phylacteries and those hems and those tassels, and they made them way bigger than they needed to be. They used it for display. They used it for ostentatious show. To them, it was a way to parade around their spirituality. She doesn't go to their hems. She goes to Jesus' hem. Because his hem finally meant what it was supposed to mean all along. A man fully surrendered to the will of God. And in her heart and her mind, she says, if I can only touch the hem of his garment, I shall be made well. Now, what convinced her that Jesus could do what all the doctors could not? What convinced her to come out of that little room, wherever it may be? It's highly likely she's divorced and living amongst the widows. What convinces her to get into the crowd that's thronging, pressing, squishing Jesus? If anybody finds out that she has a bleed, if anybody recognizes her at all, and she's in that crowd, she will be physically removed. She is unclean, and by touching the crowd, she's making them unclean. They're going to have to go through ritual purification, which nobody really wanted to do. They're going to lose some of their public freedoms. What convinces her to press through the crowd? Where is this? How does this get engendered in somebody's heart? That they say, listen, I know Jesus can do this. Listen, this is not intellect. This is not evidence. This is not proof. This is not some argument philosophically. This is something in somebody's heart where they read, they hear, they're stirred, and they know. If I can just get there, I shall be made well. When she comes up, it says in the other accounts that she comes up and she sneaks up. It tells us here from behind, but that she reaches out and touches the hem of the garment, which is highly likely that she had to get down. Now, she could touch maybe the tassels at the top, but it seems to imply that she's almost down, touching the hem. Soon as she touches him, Jesus knows the power has left him to heal her. Soon as it happens, right? There's no dialogue, there's no engagement, there's no nothing, right? She touches, power's gone, and she knows it immediately. I'm good. I'm good. This is not just a transfusion. This is a transformation. Yes. She knows, right? Her desire is to sneak back out of the crowd without anybody having known that she was even there, right? She's not trying to draw attention to herself. She just needed to seek Jesus for healing. She got it. He stops the entire parade. Stops the whole thing, the whole mass of people, as she is slinking out of the back of the crowd. Stops the whole mass of people and says, "Who touched me?" The disciples look at him like, "Come on. You're in a mosh pit. What do you mean, who touched me? Who didn't touched you? You're thronged, you're squished, you're pressed. What do you mean, who touched me?" Right? So there's many here pressing. There's one touching. Many pressing. Joe Foch did a message on that years ago. I remember for still to the day. Many pressing, one touching. There's many around. One's engaging. One's touching. He stops the whole parade. Who is it? Now the lady knows exactly what's happened. Something's happened between her and Jesus in the crowd that nobody else is aware of. She knows. She finally stops and says, "It's me." And tells us in Mark that she recounts her story. 12 years ago, I went to this doctor. This is what my husband said. This is what my husband's done. My kids now, 12 years. I need to make them a PB&J sandwich. They've all moved on. They're out at the door. 12 years. She tells the whole story in front of everybody. And that's when then Jesus looks at her, turned around. And when he saw her, he said to her, "Be of good cheer, daughter. Your faith has made you well." And the woman was made well from that hour. Now, she was made well before. But what she gets here is the affirmation that not only is she healed, but that she's his daughter. It's a little child, but in the feminine form. I can say honey to Bryn. There's a lady at Dunkin' Donuts that does that to me every now and then. I want to tell, I'm not your honey. I don't like that. I'm personally offended at the use of that. No, it was... And it's just nonsense, right? Sweetheart. Daughter. Because remarkably, Jesus doesn't just want to heal. He wants to receive. Not just a woman who's got her health and then in 20, 30, 40 years from here on out ends up dying and going to hell. He wants an actual daughter. He wants somebody whole, and he wants them to be whole with himself. Now here's the remarkable thing, right? We don't know where this woman's dad is, but he's not there in the crowd. We don't know where this woman's mom is, but she's not there helping her get through the crowd. We don't know where this woman's husband is, if she's married. Again, I speculate that he has long since divorced her and moved on to somebody else. He's not there in the crowd. Her kids, they're not there in the crowd. This woman's got to press through the throng. She's got to press through the crowd. She's got to press through all of the people that would actually oppose her even being there to meet Jesus. Hear a woman say, well, my husband doesn't pray with me. Then you pray double. My kids don't believe. It's really tough to go to church and leave my kids at home. Then go to church twice. Don't let that stop you. Because if it stops you, then they ain't going to be like you. You're going to be like them. You ain't going to help them grow in faith. You're actually going to grow in unbelief. You're going to move into the flesh. You're going to move away from God. And when we come to the Lord, none of us comes with somebody holding our hand. We're thankful for ministers. We're thankful for servants and co-laborers in the body of Christ. We are thankful for people that help us. I am thankful for my wife to the nth degree that she is loyal and faithful and diligent, and she prays me up, and she gives me a word of warning and a rebuke when I need it every 4 or 5 years or so, kind of thing. But she's willing to speak her mind, and kind of thing, in a really gracious way. I am thankful for her. But listen, I do not come to Jesus with her holding my hand. I come to Jesus myself. And she comes to Jesus herself. And at the end, then we get together and say, hey, what are you hearing and what am I hearing? And we share then in fellowship, but we come individually. Which is the first and foremost way any of us ever come. Because it's there you will hear him say, hey, not y'all, Calvary Fellowship, right, or whatever. But one-on-one, you hear daughter or son. And some of us need a good dad. And if you come to Jesus, you have the only good dad there ever is. Daughter, your faith has made you well. And she was made well. Now, we're told in the other accounts that as he is addressing the woman, Jairus is there looking around like, well, what's up with me? I'm the one who came first, right? This woman's just interrupted the parade. Jairus may know this lady from the town. She stopped. I knew it was going to happen. When I saw her there, I knew it, kind of thing. She's always, like that, kind of thing. She just hogs the conversation. She just always hijacks everything. Kind of thing. The whole parade stopped. And my daughter, come on. And soon as all this is going down, somebody comes in Jairus' house and says, listen, don't bother the master. Your daughter is dead. Your window of opportunity is closed. Don't bother the master. Jesus, before he can turn around and leave, looks at Jairus and says, do not be afraid, only believe. Jairus had said, if you come and lay your hand on my daughter, she will live. That faith is not dependent on whether or not she is breathing. God can do this. So he came into Jairus' house. Jesus, the rabbi, being accepted into the synagogue's ruler's house would be quite a scene. And there were flute players and a noisy crowd wailing. These are the professional mourners that you would bring in immediately at the point of death. If somebody was preparing to die, you'd have them lined up so that when they got the call, if the doctor pronounces they're dead or whatever it may be, that they rush over and they begin to mourn and wail. And the more mourning and wailing, as you've seen sometimes in Middle Eastern kinds of funerals, the more mourning and wailing there is, the louder the cries, the greater the crowds, these kinds of things, the more significant the death. And Jairus would have made sure that there was lots of people there to bewail his daughter's death. Sometimes it is nice to have somebody cry for you when you can't cry for yourself. But Jesus, it can also be a problem. He said to them, make room now, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping. Now, this is beautiful. He doesn't come in and just like go ballistic right off the bat, Jesus, here. You know, he comes in, this is a funeral. I've been at a funeral or two where, you know, two people there in that service are not happy with each other. It's a little frosty, right? Siblings that hadn't seen each other in years, but mom's now dead, so they're both there at the funeral together, but they're sitting on opposite sides of the room, right? So that's one thing. You're like, oh man, this is tough. You feel like you're trying to navigate really kind of difficult waters. But it's another thing entirely when they start to fight. Jesus comes in and says, make room, for the girl is not dead but sleeping, and they ridiculed him. They go from professionally mourning to scolding Jesus, yelling at Jesus, mocking Jesus. They laughed him to scorn. They go from crying to laughing to make fun of Jesus. Now listen, these are the professional mourners. They knew death. This was their job, right? This was like going to the mortician and saying, he's not really dead. Stop pumping him full of stuff. And he's like, no. Listen, I've done this for a long time. I know exactly what death looks like, and that's dead. Jesus says, no. They ridiculed him. And I just love this. Now, he gets a little feisty, right? But when the crowd was put outside, envision this, imagine this. Jairus' house. How do you put somebody outside? Scruff of the neck, belt buckle and loop in the back, you know, around the collar. It would have been fun to see. These guys don't want to leave. They're getting paid for this gig. This is their job. We're glad somebody died. We're going to make money off this. You can't get rid of us. There's no way we're leaving. No way. She's dead. We're staying. He's like, no, you're not. Yes, we are. No, you're not. Yes, we are. He's like, listen, she's not dead. Or she won't be soon anyway. You need to leave. No, we're not leaving. He physically removes them. Right? Carries them out. What is it, the Flintstones? Right? Drops him out the window, right? And then the thing comes in and then drops him out the window, right? Physically removed. Flintstones, it's a commercial or cartoon. Kids, can Google it later, it's fun. The crowd was put outside, and he went in and took her by the hand. And the little girl arose. Now, he has Peter, James, and John with him, and the little girl's parents. He goes into her room where she would have been already begun to be set up in her funeral thing that they would have carried her out on. He goes in there and he touches her hand. It says in Mark that he says, Talitha Kumai, little lamb, arise. And she gets up. Mom, Dad, what's going on? How you doing, honey? Oh, I'm tired. I'm hungry. Jesus says, get her something to eat. Right? She's 12. She's going to eat. It's been a long day. Took her by the hand, and the little girl arose. Isn't that a neat scene? What if Jairus had stayed back? I can't leave my girl like this. You don't understand. If I'm not there, nobody will be. If I don't do it, nobody can. He has to surrender her and go to the Lord and expect the Lord to do something for her that he cannot do for herself. In all of our lives, listen, in all of our lives, as parents, the goal is to see our kids walk with Jesus. For them to walk with Jesus, at some point, they are not going to walk with you. It's a necessary step They have to learn how to walk with Jesus on their own. They have to learn how to garner a faith. We always want our kids to have a mature faith. Listen, they can't have a mature faith if they are sucking off of the faith of their parents. It can't be a mature faith that way. The only way that it's a mature faith, the only way that it's an adult faith is if they come to Jesus as an adult, not as a child, but as an adult. And to be able to release them to it. What happens? What happens if they don't? These are always the questions, are they not? What happens if they keep using? What happens if they go here? What happens if they do this? What happens? Who's going to provide? Where are they going to live? What's going to do this? Oh, I don't know, but you need to go to Jesus. You can't keep running after your kids because they're not yours. You have to surrender to them. Give them to the Lord so that He can be a good dad to them, because you won't be. Right? If your father's being evil, know how to give good gifts, right? Even good dads on this earth, humanly speaking, are not perfect. I've had a great dad, right? Great example, great mom, great dad, right? They'll both tell you, neither of them are Jesus, right? They're good. He's not quite that good. And in all of our lives as we raise kids, and for our own faith development as well, there has to be a time where we peel away and stand on our own feet, where it is us and Jesus, nobody else. Because that's how one day you will be judged. You and Jesus. Nobody there to help you or account for you. It's just you and Jesus. He either stands up and says, that one's mine, or He does not. No additional help. I'll say, well, if that's the way it is, then what? Surrender them over to the Lord. And you keep seeking Jesus as best as you can, so that you can be the person that you need to be, so that when and if they do in fact rise from the dead, that you are the kind of person that can continue to lead them to Jesus and speak Christ in their life. Now you can have fellowship. Now you can have fellowship. I think in some ways parenting is very much, at least this is my experience currently, allowing in some ways your kids to die, hoping to some degree that Jesus will resurrect them. Say, Lord, you go get them now. They're yours. I've released them. You go get them now. And beautifully, what happens when He does? It does not any longer become dependent upon me, right? It's not, did I pray enough? Did I worry enough? Am I claiming the right? No, not. It's between them and Jesus. Now they can teach me, right? I watch my kid. I was just beginning the process, but I watch my own kids, not knowing what's going to happen. Kind of send them off. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where they're going to end up. I don't know what they're going to do. They could do anything, right? Evan at Pittsburgh could do anything. Anything. Has been offered everything. Could do anything at all. What did you do when you were Evan turned 21 back in October? 21st birthday. Away at college. No parents. Usually a pretty big day. What'd you do? What'd you do, Evan? I don't try to do that too much. What'd you do for your birthday, Ev? Well, me and a few friends, we watched this movie and we hung out here. I said, is that it? Yeah, that's it. You know, nobody took you to the bars, right? Your first legal 21 drink? No? Nobody took you out? It's like, Dad. Dad. Why would I do that? And to be able to stand on his own feet. There isn't in some ways any greater blessing than to see your children walk in truth. Now, remarkably, it says in verse 26 here that the report of this went out into all the land, and in contrast to the leper who told the news of the healing to everybody, it doesn't say that here. It says the report of these healings, Jairus' daughter and the woman with the blood flow, the report of this went out into all that land. This is what I have written down. Healed and whole women are unable to be hidden. Their influence and testimony speaks of a gentle power that the world cannot stop. You don't need to be like a man to radically change the world. It was William Ross Wallace that wrote, "The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world." You don't even need to tell anybody. I met Jesus. He's healed me. He's saved me. He's changed me. You don't even need to tell anybody. They will notice it in your influence. They will see it in your service. It will be something that you don't have to promote. The report of it will go out to the whole world. The report of it. People will start telling stories about you. Not because you're great. Actually, because you weren't. You were just so desperate and needy. You didn't know where else to go. But you happened to just go to Jesus. And he met you there. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is still doing stuff like this. If you need him today, man, seek him out. Seek him out. Okay? And seek Jesus for Jesus. Don't seek Jesus for something else. Seek Jesus for Jesus. Right? And see what he does. Come surrendered. You don't come demanding. He's the Lord, remember. You come to him. Seek him. And he will act. He's still doing it.
All right, I love that quote by Pastor Mike. He said, "Healed and whole women are unable to be hidden. Their influence and testimony speaks of a gentle power that the world cannot stop." So as we wrap up, remember this. Sometimes the most radical influence comes from the hand that rocks the cradle. When Jesus meets you in your desperation and heals you, the world will notice. Not because of your strength, but because of his. All right, that's all for now. Thanks for joining us. This is the Word for the Valley podcast. So long, everyone.